Hi everyone, Laptin here and welcome to another episode of CXed. Now today we're going to talk about emails, or more specifically, how can we engage and sell better than emails? Now, what's wrong with emails, you ask? Well, of course, as businesses, we all rely heavily on emails for our sales, marketing, and comms, generally because we like to think it's cheap and easy, right? But in reality, if we really think about it, is email really that cheap or easy, especially when we consider one, that you need to have a team that's always churning out that content. Two, the email tools and platforms like Salesforce or HubSpot, MailChimp can get very expensive, especially as your customer database gets bigger. And finally, then when we overlay the top that, most emails generally don't engage or convert properly, precisely because they're kind of cheap and generic, right? And we're, as human beings, we're just bombarded with hundreds of them every day, right? You might be a head of marketing or a CMO watching this right now, but put yourself in the customer's shoes, right? All those promo emails and things that you receive every day, what do you do with them, right? Most of the time you just go click, boop, delete, right? So it's the same thing here. We're bombarded with so much of this stuff that essentially the effectiveness of it is quite low. Well, let's look at a couple of examples, right, to really illustrate what I mean.
So let's look at a couple of examples from brands that we would all know, at least if in Australia, most of us would know, or emails that we've seen at one point or another. Not to pick on anyone in particular, but these are emails that were very common and we would all associate with in one way, shape, or form. So one from Myer, one of Australia's major department stores, got a nice email here, mega brand sale, got a nice picture, grabbed my attention, looks nice and everything. But I scroll down and boom, right away, I'm not interested, right? Because I'm not in the market for homewares. And now, obviously, I'm speaking from a personal point of view, but if we're being honest here, at any point in time, there's only probably going to be about 5 to 10% of the population which are interested in homewares, at this moment, right? So already you've got this team putting together all this content, but because it's generic, right? From the get-go, from the moment that email goes out the door, 95% of the effort is already going to waste, right? And that is really, that reduces our effectiveness out the door. So look at another example, Qantas Frequent Flyer, one of Australia's largest loyalty rewards programs, 14 million members. I've been a member myself for over 10 years. And so I get tons. I've got about, I think I checked it, I have about 7,000 or 8,000 of the emails over the last decade or so. They send one every once or twice a week. And this one of their wine offers. Only problem is, I don't drink wine. I don't drink wine. So I never engage with these emails whatsoever. That's a different reason why, but rarely, once again, all the time and effort spent putting all this together, and maybe there are partners here, there are other suppliers and all these kind of things that come into it, boom, already out the door, because it's not really looking at what's relevant to me. And then we'll apply the same thing to yourself, whether it's luggage or whatnot, or various offers, right? Because once again, with email, cheap, standard, generic, so everything looks the same, right? And then so it doesn't have that kind of level of relevancy and appeal. Uniqlo here, also a major fashion brand, everybody knows. So it's got a little carousel here. It's got a cycle, a couple of different images. So whether it's women, men, children, right? It's trying to get all you covered. This week's sale, great, fantastic start. But we scroll down and then boom, the very first thing I see are women's fashion, right? And once again, as a guy, already I'm like, well, that's not really for me, right? So it's clearly right away I can tell, subconsciously or consciously, I know this is a generic email, not really designed and tailored for me specifically, and already I'm tuning out. All right, so these are already just a couple of quick examples you can see of how, sure, email might seem cheap and easy, but really when we treat it like a cheap and easy kind of thing, where we're doing a very generic shotgun type of approach, we're really reducing the efficacy of the emails for ourselves.
So the problem with, here then with a modern email marketing is that we're essentially putting all this content, right? We're constantly on that, content grind, churning out all that content, but it's really relevant to at most, 5 to maybe, if we be a bit more generous, 10% of our audience at any one particular point in time. So let's put a quantitative lens on that too, right? For some of you who are more numbers based, let's put a quantitative lens on that, right? Let's look at if we look at a couple of the email marketing platforms, most of them cost anywhere from $1 to up to $6 a customer a year, right? That sits on your database. So let's say you've got 1 million customers, you're spending about $3 million just on the email platform itself. Then you've got a full-time team creating all the content and all the compliance checks, partnerships and whatever, kind of whatnot, or the back and forth. So you can easily add another 1 to 2 million on top. So let's say $5 million all up for simplicity. So that's $5 a customer a year just to run your email marketing. Is it really cheap? Not so cheap. But wait, there's more, right? Like we saw in the examples before, the problem is that most email marketing is a shotgun approach, pray and spray. So when we overlay the relevancy part, right, that 5 to 10%, and once again, we use 10% here just to be a bit more generous, right? We're talking about 10% of the customer base at any point in time that's relevant to. So really, it's actually costing about $50 per customer a year to run your email marketing, because that 90% that's not relevant, that all that effort is essentially wasted out the door, right? Before you even get started, the instant you press that send button, boom, you already know 90% of that of the work is already gone to waste. So really, every customer is costing you that's actually reading and responding and in that right frame of mind, it's about $50 a year. So when you look at that from that perspective, email marketing, it's really that cheap or effective at all? And really, the answer is no, not really. And there's actually a longer term implication from this, which is that, in the long run, this actually works against you, because guess what, right? Think about it from your own perspective. When you're constantly receiving emails or offers that aren't relevant to you over and over again from the same source, what do? Right? We start tuning it out. We start conditioning ourselves to not respond. To just go, okay, look, it's another email from blah, 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 so-and-so, right? So I'll just ignore it. So you tune out. And that's actually what so that 95% that's not relevant to, once you do it a number of times, what's actually doing is ingraining and conditioning them to ignore what you're saying. So even the next message, even if it is relevant, there's a much higher chance they'll just ignore it out of pure habit and conditioning, right? So really then, that's the fundamental weakness of email marketing, which is, sure, it's cheap and easy, but because we rely on so much actually and bombard people with so much, actually becomes ineffective and more expensive than we actually think it really is. But what if then, let's flip it around, what if we could do better than just email? What if there was a way we could create a tailored experience to each customer so that what they're getting is personalized to them? Because like I said, I covered this in episode 3 of CXed. One of the 3 pillars of effective customer engagement is personalization. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be seen as more than just a number, right? Everybody wants stuff that's relevant, relevant and tailored to them.
So what if instead of flat text in a generic email, you could deliver something like this to your customers instead? Female fashion for summer, or something like this. Which is personalized more around the style rather than the season, right? Men's casual clothing. A lot more interesting, isn't it? And more importantly, relevant to, and targeted to the right person.
Visually rich, personalized video experiences tailored to the customer that actually stand out and help to engage and convert, right? Now, of course, there are plenty of other ways to deliver personalization, but you can see how much better an experience this is, what we just saw, is compared to like an ordinary email, like the examples we saw earlier, right? And so this is how we can really engage better and sell better than emails. So that's been another episode of CXed. I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, let's engage more and sell more together.